The anime begins with a girl named Takagawa Hataru, preparing to go on summer vacation to her uncle's house. While Hataru is waiting for the bus, she remembers what happened when she was 6. At that time, she first visited her uncle's house to spend summer vacation. One day, she played alone in the middle of the forest, which made her get lost. Because of that, she could only curl up while crying. Not long after, Hataru saw a mysterious masked man looking at her. Her crying stopped as she looked at him. She immediately ran to him and wanted to hug him, because she thought he had come to save her. Turned out that he just dodged her until she fell. The man explained that if a human touched his body, he would disappear. He also said that he was not a human but a spirit inhabitant of the forest. Hataru, who was still innocent, believed his words. Then she teased him by chasing him while wanting to touch him. He was annoyed with her silly behavior, then he hit her. Soon afterward, the man holding hands with Hataru, but each of them holding onto a small piece of wood. He intends to take her to the forest gates so she can return to her uncle's house. On the way, Hataru said that it was like they were dating, but he answered it was indeed a date with no romance. After walking for some time, they finally arrived in front of the forest gate. He could only escort her to the gate. He explained that she just needed to go straight from there, and then there was a path. Hataru asked if she could play with him again in the forest, but the man replied that the forest was where the mountain gods and spirits lived, so she could be lost forever if she re-entered the forest. He advised Hataru not to go back there again. And before she left, she asked him his name, and he said that his name was Jin. After that, she said she would still return to the forest tomorrow, then ran away, leaving Jin. On the way home, Hataru met her uncle, looking for her. She ran to her uncle while wanting to hug him, but when she got closer, he had hit her instead. After that, Hataru asked him about the existence of the forest spirit in that place. Her uncle told Hataru that when he was a child, he used to play in the forest, but he never found the forest spirit. But sometimes, he catches glimpses of apparitions. Several times he also had time to hear music from the forest in the summer at night. Her uncle's friends also said that they had participated in a festival held in the forest. However, strangely, the residents never held a festival in the middle of the forest. From then on, rumors began to develop that the spirits were holding the festival in the forest. Not long after, Hataru immediately got ready to sleep. Before falling asleep, she remembered what Jin had said, forbidding her to return to the forest. But the next day, Hataru, who was curious, returned to the forest. Unexpectedly, Jin turned out to be in front of the forest gate like he was waiting for her presence. After seeing him, she was very happy. Then she ran to him and wanted to hug him. But Jin hit her again until she winced in pain. Shortly afterward, Jin took Hataru for a walk in the forest. On the way, she saw a black figure who seemed to be trying to scare her. That black figure told Jin he would eat Hataru. Hearing this, she immediately hid behind Jin. Jin firmly said he couldn't eat Hataru because she was his friend. Then the black figure warned her not to touch Jin. If she touched him, the figure would eat her. Soon afterward, Jin immediately expelled the black figure, then the figure changed its form into a fox and left them. Jin explains that the figure is a spirit that guards the mountain. Sometimes, the spirit changes its form, so humans are afraid, when actually, the spirit is good. After hearing that, Hataru was happy because it was the first time she had seen a real spirit. Hataru and Jin continued their journey again. She is curious why Jin always wears a mask. She guesses that he doesn't have an even face or spirit. But he was reluctant to answer her question and chose to ignore it. Jin rather asked her to tell her about herself. However, she instead teased him and ran away laughing. Time passed. Hataru and Jin often seemed to spend time together in the middle of the forest. She looks very happy to be playing with him. Not long after, they played in a boat made of leaves and placed it on the river water, then they ran together. Until one day, when Jin fell asleep, Hataru ventured to remove his mask. It turns out that his face is very handsome and he looks like a human. After that, he explained, if he didn't wear a mask, many would think of him as a human. That's why he has always worn a mask to distinguish himself from humans. On the way home, Hataru tells Jin that she won't be able to return to the forest tomorrow because her summer vacation is over, and she will be back in town soon. Jin asked if she would return there on summer vacation next year. She replied that she would happily come back to see him. Long story short, the second summer vacation arrived. Hataru returned to visit her uncle's house so she could play in the middle of the forest. Arriving at her uncle's house, she immediately met Jin at the forest gate, where he was seen waiting for her arrival. Soon afterward, they rested on a wooden bridge while dropping their feet into the river water. On the way to the middle of the forest, there is a forest spirit in the form of a tree and warns Jin to be careful of Hataru because she is a human. Because if Jin is touched by humans, then he will disappear forever. But he said that everything would be fine. The tree spirit also advised Hataru not to touch Jin. As they walked, suddenly, umbrellas began to appear one by one among the trees. Hataru looked confused by the incident. However, she tried to ignore it. Not long after, Hataru, who is ignorant, hides in a tree and Jin searches for her whereabouts. Then, she appears from the top of the tree and surprises him, who is walking. Suddenly, without her knowing, the branch of the tree would soon break. When the branch broke, she fell, and Jin suddenly wanted to catch her. Luckily, she fell in the bushes, so he didn't have to touch her. After that, she apologized and asked him not to touch her no matter what because she didn't want him to disappear. Time is passing, and Hataru is a junior high school student now. She returns to her uncle's house to play with Jin in the forest. Arriving in the forest, she proudly shows off her new uniform. That's when she realized that he looked the same. Turned out that Jin's age had never increased since they first met. Not long after, Hataru and Jin walked into the middle of the forest while looking at the lake. Hataru said that even though she was now in junior high school, she felt everything was normal, because of her friend in elementary school is in the same school as her in junior high school. After that, she taught Jin how to play and fly a kite. Not long after, Hataru went to her uncle's house, and then she lay down. She thought she would be older than Jin one day. Then, her uncle came and called her to eat watermelon together. Afterward, he asked when she would return to her home, and Hataru replied that she would return in the afternoon. Then, her uncle told Hataru that his village would be very cold next winter. Because their village is on a mountain slope and far from the sea, there is a significant temperature difference between summer and winter. Knowing that, she hurried up and prepared a scarf to give Jin before returning home. And then, she left Jin and said that next year she would come back again. Days had passed, and Hataru spent the winter in her home with her parents because she was still attending school. However, she always remembers Jin and misses him. She even daydreams and thinks about him all the time. Even when she went to school, she didn't pay attention to the road. Then, her male friend greets Hataru and tells her that the road in front of her is slippery, so she must be careful. He also asked why she is lately always daydreaming, but she could only reply in her heart that she missed Jin. Meanwhile, in the middle of the forest, there was snow covering the trees. Jin was seen sitting at the forest gate. He seemed to be waiting for Hataru's arrival while wearing a scarf from her. After winter ends, Hataru returns to spend her summer vacation at her uncle's house. Arriving there, she immediately went into the forest to meet Jin. She has become a senior high school student and looks more mature now. They then went to the shore of the lake to relax and chat. Jin asked why she didn't run to him anymore, wanting to hug him. Hataru angrily replied that she felt tired because he always hit her. Soon afterward, Hataru said she would look for a job in the village after graduating from school to always be with Jin. After that, Jin told about himself to her. He says he is not a spirit because he was once a human. A long time ago, Jin was a human baby dumped by his parents in the middle of the forest. He couldn't help but cry the whole time until the forest spirits found him and came to him. The forest god then gave him an amulet as a mask so he could continue to live. Turned out that because of that, he can't get out of the forest and can't come into contact with humans. Jin said it's okay if Hataru wants to forget or leave him one day. However, she says she will never forget him as long as they can be together until time separates. Afterward, Jin invites Hataru to a spirit festival held at night. He convinces her not to be afraid because the festival is almost the same as the one made by humans. He promised to protect Hataru if something happened later. Hearing his invitation, she happily accepted. Then they made an appointment at 8 to meet at the forest gate. In the evening, Hataru returned to the forest to meet him. After that, they went to the spirit festival. Many spirits wear masks like humans because sometimes humans and spirits mingle with each other at the festival. Jin then tied each other's clothes on their hands so they wouldn't be separated. Hataru said that it was like they were dating, and he replied that they were indeed dating. They visited and saw various performances at the festival. There were also many human children playing there. At the culmination of the festival, they burned a giant pile of straw towers that looked so beautiful. After returning from the festival, Jin expresses his feelings of always wanting to be with Hataru. Then he put his mask on her face. Suddenly, he kissed her from behind the mask. While walking home, Hataru was still thinking about all the words Jin had said earlier. Suddenly, some children were running towards them from the forest. Jin immediately touched the child's hand when he almost fell, and after that, he was glowing. Hataru realized that the child who touched her earlier was human. Shortly afterward, Jin asked Hataru to hug him, and without thinking, she ran and immediately hugged him. But it didn't last long. He then disappeared and was gone forever. Seeing this, Hataru couldn't help but cry because she saw the man she loved had disappeared forever. Jin's body became a grain of light that lit up the forest. The spirits in the forest also thanked her for giving Jin happiness, even if only for a moment. Hearing that, she could only be silent while hugging Jin's mask with sadness. Even so, she must continue her life without waiting for another summer. Over time, Hataru graduated from her senior high school, and then she went straight to her uncle's house. The anime ends. The moral that can be learned is that the feeling of love is very strange. Sometimes we can love someone without using logic, and sometimes other people judge us as stupid humans.